Stop by becoming rich. Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we
You can wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. Wednesday, 26th of June. Daily levels. So, this is Bitcoin's yearly VWAP, volume weighted average price, something I check in every now and then. And I noticed that it hit the VWAP midpoint on Monday's dump. So, in a simple sense, this is a average price with a center. So that's the actual volume at average price. Then you've got deviations, standard deviations 1 and 2. And if price is above the blue line, then the weighted average volume of the entire year, this is a yearly, so it goes from January, then positions are above the weighted average for the year. So if you look at it in terms of whether people are in profit or at a loss, just in terms of volume distributed, it doesn't tell you obviously where people are positioned. But if price goes below that level, it indicates that the majority of the volume on the average, so the moving average of volume, is above price, therefore longs are under pressure and the market's bearish, right? If you're trending higher, you want to see it stay above that. You can see in 2023, we spent most of the year above it, came back to it a couple of times, held at it. Very typical for a recovery year or a strong year. And obviously we've got bearish years and even bull market years where it respects both sides. So 2021, the bands were great to trade with. Obviously we couldn't break out beyond the top band, which makes sense because if you understand the distribution, it's going to be very unlikely for price to go beyond 2 standard deviations above the VWAP. Came back, we held it. Here's one to note. We held it back in May and then lost it. Went down to the lower end, reclaimed, held, back up to the highs, couldn't break out, and that was the year overall. So it doesn't necessarily mean that much by itself, just, blindly can you buy here? No. There's examples from last year where that was the bottom. There's examples from 2021 where it wasn't the bottom. But it's one of the things that I check in every now and then, and it's worth noting. So that's that. Now, Bitcoin, after the sell-off on Monday, we had a nice reaction Tuesday. Price now consolidating after that move. And so I think we can make a move up to retest the old value area low. Price was pushing towards that area. I drew out a few paths. In fact, I'll zoom in again. I drew some paths out yesterday, and I think blue path now is the most likely. Where we move up, we consolidate, then we move higher. I do think that this, where we're at right now, is likely to produce at least a squeeze higher. It might not go all the way up there. That's, in the extreme bullish example, I guess, for the near term. But what I'm looking at is the value area low. So where the shaded blue comes in. If BTC pushes up there, falls back, fails to get inside it, that's where I'd expect us to move back down to the lows. So those are the two paths I'm looking at. I do think we go for an attempt to break higher. So I do think it attempts to break 62.7, 62.8 and get into that value area again. And whether it rejects off there or not will be probably the indicator of the next ranging phase or trending. So that's BTC. ETH, let's zoom out. A nice consolidation, it potentially reclaiming that level and holding it as a higher low. Another few days needed to see that. Solana, trying to put in this sort of triple bottom down near the lows. 1, 2, 3, holding nicely for now. Solana itself, not as interesting to me really. I don't think that Solana is, the structure here isn't good. I'm not a fan. So, I'm more focused on BTC and ETH. Some of the altcoins I was showing yesterday, some of the meme coins, and not just memes, but alts in general. If we zoom out and we look at since Monday's open. So since Monday's open, we have over here, the best performers since then have been meme coins, as we know, obviously. Bitcoin is the worst performer since Monday, even over Litecoin. Of course, a lot of talk about this, about is that, is it alt season? I don't think so. If it is, it's probably one of the worst things you could see. One of the worst things you could see right now would be Bitcoin to lag, between sort of 58 and 65, and for altcoins to make new highs. That's pretty much bull market over. At least it always has been. So we're far, far, far away from that. Obviously, most of these alts are bouncing off of 70% declines. So it's not like we're seeing new all-time highs across the board and the typical sort of alt season exit end of the bull. But that was from Monday. And then when you zoom it in, you go from Tuesday, you can see meme coin still doing well, but Bitcoin reclaiming a lot of strength over some of the other, altcoins, not meme coins. And then we zoom in it again and go from this morning, from today. You can see a bit less on those meme coins. A couple of an AI coin, AVAX, Litecoin, but stuff not really moving that much. Apart from AGIX, most stuff's just in a tighter range here. And so today so far has been more of a consolidation day. And I expect to see some of these coins having nice moves. But I would say something like Pepe, for example, has completed its move for now. It's back into testing the 200-day moving average. And if I get my other chart, because Pepe had one of the better rallies and could set up a decent structure. But I'm looking at this, especially when you take that extra context of the 200-day, which is an important level, and it's pulling back off of. So, is that not going to show up? Where are we? Sorry, that was the 200 period moving average on the 4-hour. So if you have the EMA and the 3 bands, Pepe is above them. Let me zoom out here. Take that off. So Pepe is one of the first to be potentially reclaiming a 4-hour trend structure. The 4-hour trend here, like when it reclaimed back in April. Reclaim that, consolidate, and then it can start to trend higher. So it's pushed back above all of them. Obviously the bands are still bearish. 50, 100, 200 are not in a bullish formation, but they will be soon if it continues to hold and consolidate there. And I'm still watching for a couple areas. You got your point of control below, you got your weekly open level, and the previous all-time high. So later last week, we're looking at that previous all-time high and the March all-time high as being retest levels. So it dipped down right through the March one and has pushed up since then, leaving us with a couple gaps. So you've got an order block here, the 4-hour, around that level. And you've got another one right down here at the March all-time high. So I think at some point over the coming weeks, days or weeks, I think Pepe will probably give a wick down into one of those levels. And if it's bullish, that's probably one of the best dip places to buy before it eventually then goes and trends towards an all-time high. I'd say that's probably, like if you look at this range that's been forming, it's been forming since start of June. And we're just now trying to bottom out. getting towards the end of June. It could be another 2 weeks or 3 weeks before Pepe has built a base sufficiently to actually rally higher. And that would also be dependent on the overall market going higher too. Pepe is not going to go higher by itself if everything else goes lower, right? That's important to note. It's definitely doing well right now, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. So it's currently had the squeeze up above the bands. It's trying to flip them, but a lot of work to be done here. So, same thing happened with Toncoin. If you remember, all the way back, Toncoin was looking amazing for these breakouts, and they fail because the market was not ready. And is it going to break out from here? Again, it depends on the market itself. You can see that Ton is not going to run by itself because when it tried to last time, Bitcoin started to sell off and it pulled Ton back down. What you don't want, if you're looking at altcoins here, I really wouldn't put a lot of stock into seeing the ones that are super high. Obviously strength is good, but when you see Bitcoin down and potentially going down lower, you see the market reaching lows. If you're looking for the best trend trade entries, it's not stuff like this that's already significantly up. Especially Toncoin, because it's like fucking $10 billion or more. Sorry, top 10. It's probably $20 billion asset. Same as Pepe. Like Pepe had a pullback, which is good. That's fine. It's not like I wouldn't have any problems with Pepe necessarily. It needs a little bit more time to actually show where it's bottoming out. But I look at like BTC itself, and this could be very easily a consolidation before lower. And if it brings the market down, it probably brings us down into our final bottom. But you want to be buying stuff that has bottom structures forming and is starting to rise up again. And as you look across the alt market, there isn't really any of that happening. Most of these are just still in the midst of their sell-off. There's nothing here that I would say you could call a bottom yet. Can they be close to a bottom? Sure. Right? Can it be almost bottomed out? Yes. But they don't seem to have bottoming structure yet. Like say for Phantom, for this to confirm as a bottom, what you need to see is this black path, right, where it comes up. It doesn't have to push that high, but it basically just has to move up, reclaim. It has reclaimed that level, flip above, bands go green, consolidate on them, and there, so somewhere over here, I'd look at Phantom and say most likely bottom. So that's probably August. Like I'm saying, that could be a month away before some of this stuff forms like that. Same as Arbitrum, right? Arbitrum might be just doing a trap below the lows and it moves back up, but even if it does, it's going to do that first. Remember, this whole thing is going to be a consolidation, and it's going to have to move up to the top corner of that box and then break out. Like, it's going to take time. There's no big breakouts on any of these altcoins probably until September, October, which is fine, by the way. And it also sets up an opportunity to build some positions with a higher time frame view, which is something I'm looking at over the next few days, charting across a bunch of different alts to see, can we find some position trades? And I think what you want to be careful of with things like Ton and Pepe, it's a little bit like Injective, if you remember. Remember Injective last year was by far the leading and the most surprising coin, right? All the way through here, whenever the rest of the market was still not really bullish yet, right? Injective was doing this whenever the market was not really in full bull. And then we had the deep sell-off in summer. And then coming into October, Injective just started flying. It was only really Bitcoin going up, Solana was going up, and then Injective was just mooning. And then once it started to pull back, this wasn't the top of the bull market, right? Injective really topped out in December. And then January, February, March, we had memes going crazy, we had all these other coins going crazy, and people were like, oh, Injective's next, and Injective wasn't. That was it. It was done. And that's not because it's bad or good. It's because Injective had its run, and it ran earlier, so it naturally tops out earlier, and the profit taking begins sooner. So if we bottom out in the next month or so, I would look at stuff like Ton and Pepe and actually say they're probably more likely to pull back because they've been outperforming. And if the market bottoms and other stuff that's really beaten down like Arbitrum and all that other shit, if that starts to rise, it probably rises by itself or in a group. And some of the outperformers might actually cool off before having their own run later on, is the way I would look at it. So keep that in mind. And really, that's about it. There's not much else happening today. I think consolidation is just, we're in this phase where I talked about it on Monday, as this collapse was happening. And especially as we got that move. Once we had that move down and the V reversal right back up into that initial breakdown point, I said that's the bottom for now. Right, and we're looking at over here, from Monday. Bottoms in around here. Holds for the rest of the week, at least. Because when you see the price ripping down through those key levels and then having a strong reaction off that old pivot, and I mentioned this value area low is probably a target. We've obviously made our way up to almost there. It doesn't have to be the bottom, but it was such a significant final push and sell-off that I am confident to say that it's the bottom for now. And the thing with this is people who are trying to short, they're going to try shorting it here. And it's just going to go a little bit higher, and then higher, and then eventually it'll go down. Sunday, Monday, whatever, if it is going to go down. And it's in this part where it's just choppy, frustrating them. Bears are still angry and trying to re-short it and revenge trading and all that kind of stuff. So I see plenty of room for BTC to go higher here. And it doesn't even have to mean it's a bullish shift or anything like that. We don't know. But I see it as having enough momentum to push higher. So that's it. And obviously if that happens, so will Ethereum. We're getting towards the end of the week, and ETH ETF is supposed to be next week, and you're probably going to see some positive headlines about the ETH ETFs and all that kind of stuff, which maybe gives ETH a little bit of a pop. And then we'll see how it goes when it launches next week. GM.